how 115 million Americans got a chronic disease without ever getting music sick. Today, I'm going to show you the single biggest cause of chronic disease in the US. And it's not what you think. It's not sugar. It's not seed oils. It's not even sitting in front of your computer for 8 hours. The single biggest driver of this epidemic happened in a meeting room. I want you to put on your detective hat for a minute. In fact, you want to ask these two questions anytime you actually have a health problem. Number one, when did it start? And what happened just before it started? That's going to give you a really big clue, because there's been a lot of debates going back and forth of what causes chronic disease. Some people will say it'll be seed oil. Some people will say it's sugar. Some people say it's saturated fat. Some people say it's red meat. But if you study the graphs of chronic disease, you'll see these trends go up, and then all of a sudden it goes up significantly, like this massive spike right here, here, and here. Today we're going to really focus on 3 diseases: diabetes, cholesterol, and hypertension diagnosis. Diabetes, cholesterol, and hypertension. So this is 1990, 1995, 2000, 2005, 2010. It's going along slightly trending upward, right? And then around 2017, hypertension diagnosis changes. A total cliff goes straight up in vertical. Overnight, 31 million people were now diagnosed with hypertension. Now, what's really wild about this is their blood pressure has not changed. The definition of what blood pressure is changed. All right, let's go to cholesterol. In 1988, cholesterol guidelines changes, which is probably over here. Normal LDL was 190, and then in 2001, the committee dropped the 190 to 130. Statin prescriptions doubled in the next 3 years. Then in 2013, they dropped it again. Overnight, 12.9 million people were now diagnosed with high cholesterol. And by the way, as a side note, presently we have 86 million people diagnosed with high cholesterol, and most of them are put on medication. Diabetes and prediabetes. Now, let's go to the diabetes graph right through here. This one's in red, and you'll see this massive spike right around 2010. And this one shocked me because they manufactured a brand new category of illness called prediabetes. In a single stroke of a pen, 72 million people became pre-diabetic. And then when you add it all up, roughly 115 million adults now sit in the diabetes or prediabetes bucket. Now, this is one overdiagnosis controversy thing that's very depressing. But the bigger thing that really got me was the conflict of interest. The people that formed the committees that decided this, a good percentage of them had financial ties to the industries that produce these drugs. Now, where did I get this information? From an amazing book, and I'll put the link down below. It's called Overdiagnosed, which was written by Dr. Welch, MD. And I recently learned there was a whole group of doctors who are trying to make other doctors aware of what's going on with this overdiagnosis. The British Medical Journal, BMJ, they actually ran a standing peer review campaign about this for years called Too Much Medicine. But in the book Overdiagnosed, which I highly recommend you get, Dr. Welch talks about these 3 conditions and other conditions too, like osteoporosis, because they've done a similar thing with that. They also changed the definition of BMI, the body mass index, which is completely ridiculous because you can have people that are very muscular, but their BMI says they're obese. So that's for a separate video. If your environment is off, everything else struggles. It's like a fish tank. Pollute the water and the fish gets sick. You could feed them the best food. You can treat every single symptom, but if the water stays toxic, nothing recovers. The body runs on 10. Signals like insulin, cortisol, inflammation, sleep quality, gut function, every one of them affects how you feel, but there is always one signal that is more broken than the rest. And until you fix that one, everything else stays stuck. I built a free 2-minute quiz that finds it for you. It tells you which one of the main signals is holding your body back right now. Click the link in the description, take the quiz, and stop guessing. If you're going to change, does overdiagnosis help? The numbers to get a lot more people diagnosed and put on medication. The big question is, does this extend the person's life? Does it improve their health? It did not extend their mortality. In fact, it started a polypharm pharmacy where you start one medication and you get a side effect, and then you're prescribed another medication which gives you a side effect. I mean, even with high blood pressure, for years, normal blood pressure was 140/90. Then in November 2017, a panel of cardiologists voted to drop it to 130/80. Same people, same readings, brand new category. 31 million people became hypertensive overnight. Meanwhile, the UK, Europe, Canada, Japan, Australia looked at the exact same scientific evidence and said, no, we're not going that direction. We're going to keep it at 140. I was under the assumption that normal blood pressure was 130 over 80. No, right now that is stage 1 hypertension. So a lot of the spike of this epidemic has been manufactured. The elephant in the room is what causes insulin resistance and chronic illness, diabetes, insulin problems. We have chronic elevation of insulin. Chronic elevation of insulin causes stiff arteries. Chronic elevation of insulin also increases cholesterol. Chronic elevation of insulin causes insulin resistance and prediabetes and also diabetes. So then we narrow down the question, what causes a chronic elevation of insulin? A high carb diet, especially refined sugars and refined starches. And so this leads to the million-dollar question. Are there type 2 diabetes reversal natural alternatives for these diseases? Well, there just so happens to be some pretty hardcore research when we talk about type 2 diabetes and also the reversal of diabetes. That's right. There was full reversal after 12 months in 46 out of 100 red people. This should be told to you while you're in the doctor's office before they give you medication, because they're supposed to give you alternatives to the medication according to informed consent. Then we get to LDL. Are there how to lower cholesterol naturally alternatives? Yes, there's red yeast rice that can actually help lower LDL. There's niacin that significantly lowers LDL and raises HDL. Plant sterols, can bring down LDL. Exercise can bring down LDL, and a low-carb diet can bring down LDL. The research methodology that we use is called randomized control trials. And with randomized control trials, usually you're going to be testing one thing compared to a placebo, but randomized control trials are not really set up to study lifestyle factors, especially when we're stacking multiple things at once. But if we had common sense, couldn't we add several of these things together? I'm talking about adding or stacking lifestyle factors, change the diet, add exercise, sleep better, reduce stress. Couldn't we do multiple things? Take a look at the how to lower blood pressure side-by-side comparison of garlic for hypertension. Hibiscus tea brings down high blood pressure. The DASH diet, with also the reduction of sodium, significantly reduces blood pressure. Exercise helps reduce blood pressure. Lowering sodium and increasing potassium reduces high blood pressure, and adding magnesium also reduces hypertension. So why not add up several of these items to potentially get to the root cause? Well, because there's no research on that, and until there's research, people don't look at it as valid. But it's impossible to do a randomized control trial on using all of these together because we don't really know what is causing what. So, in summary, much of the chronic disease epidemic has been manufactured. Not all of it, but the spikes are manufactured. And since the theme of all three of these diseases wrap around this insulin resistance thing, I think it's really important for you to understand it, to know how to correct it. And that's why I created this video right here. So check that out, right?